Edith Thompson entered the world as Edith Jessie Graydon on Christmas Day in 1893, taking her first breaths at 97 Norfolk Road in Dalston, London. She was the eldest among her siblings, born to William Eustace Graydon, a clerk at the Imperial Tobacco Company, and Ethel Jessie Graydon, whose father served as a police constable. Growing up, Edith displayed a vibrant spirit, thriving in dance, drama, and academics, particularly excelling in arithmetics. Upon completing her schooling in 1909, Edith embarked on her professional journey, starting with a position at Lewis London, a clothing manufacturer near Aldgate Station. Through her keen intellect and stylish demeanor, Edith swiftly climbed the ranks within the company, eventually becoming their chief buyer and even traveling to Paris on behalf of the firm. In 1909, at just 15 years old, Edith crossed paths with Percy Thompson, 3 years her senior. Following a 6-year courtship, they exchanged vows at St. Barnabas Manor Park on January 15, 1916. Initially residing on Retreat Road in West Clift-on-Sea, the couple later purchased a home at 41 Kensington Gardens, in the fashionable London suburb of Ilford, in July of 1920. With both their careers flourishing, they enjoyed a life of comfort and success. However, in 1920, the couple crossed paths with 18-year-old Frederick Bywaters, though their initial connection dated back 9 years earlier when Bywaters, then just 9 years old, had been friends with Edith's younger brothers. Frederick Bywaters had enlisted in the Merchant Navy. Edith, then 26 years old, was captivated by Bywaters' charm and spontaneous demeanor. His tales of worldly travel ignited her passion for adventure and romance. In Bywaters, Edith found a representation of her idealized romanticism, contrasting with the perceived conventionalism of her 29-year-old husband, Percy. Unaware of the budding romantic tension between his wife and Bywaters, Percy welcomed the young man into their social circle. Subsequently, the quartet, including Edith's sister Avis, embarked on a holiday to Shanklin on the Isle of Wight. Following their return, Percy extended an invitation for Bywaters to lodge with them. During their vacation on the Isle of Wight in June of 1921, Edith and Bywaters began a romantic affair, initially unbeknownst to Percy. However, Percy gradually sensed his wife's growing emotional distance. The situation reached a breaking point barely a month after the affair began. A minor incident in the Thompsons' garden led to a heated altercation, resulting in Percy striking his wife, causing her to stumble over furniture. Bywaters intervened, prompting Percy to order him out of the house. Mrs. Lester, the Thompsons' tenant, later noted Mrs. Thompson's bruises in a statement to the police. From September of 1921 to September of 1922, Bywaters was at sea, during which time Edith corresponded with him frequently. Upon his return, they resumed their relationship. On October 3, 1922, the Thompsons attended a show at the Criterion Theatre in Piccadilly Circus, London, accompanied by Edith's uncle and aunt, Mr. and Mrs. J. Laxton. After leaving the theater at 11 p.m., they headed to the Piccadilly Circus tube station, where they parted ways. The Thompsons boarded the 11:30 p.m. train to Ilford. While walking along Belgrave Road between De Vere and Ensley Gardens near their home, a man emerged from behind some bushes and attacked Percy. In the ensuing struggle, Edith was knocked to the ground, and Percy was fatally stabbed. Despite Edith's effort to seek help, Percy succumbed to his injuries before assistance could arrive. The assailant fled the scene, leaving neighbors to report hearing Edith's frantic screams. Upon the police's arrival, Edith was still visibly distressed and remained in a state of shock. Unbeknownst to her, Bywaters was already a suspect and was arrested that evening. At the police station the next day, Edith, unaware of Bywaters' situation, was confronted with him. Under duress and falsely informed that Bywaters had confessed, she disclosed her association with him and provided details about the attacker. Further investigation revealed over 60 love letters from Edith to Bywaters, serving as the primary evidence linking her to the crime. During the proceedings at Stratford Magistrates' Court, her defense argued that the letters did not establish a connection between Edith and the murder. However, the magistrate ruled that the court at the Old Bailey would reconsider their admissibility. Subsequently, Edith Thompson and Frederick Bywaters were each committed for trial on charges of murder. The trial commenced on December 6, 1922, at the Old Bailey, presided over by Mr. Justice Shearman. Cecil Whitley defended Bywaters, while Sir Henry Curtis Bennett represented Thompson. Solicitor General Sir Thomas Inskip led the prosecution for the Crown, with assistance from Travers Humphreys. Bywaters had cooperated fully with the authorities, leading them to the murder weapon he had hidden after the crime, consistently maintaining that he acted without Edith's knowledge. Edith Thompson's love letters were presented as evidence of incitement to murder. These letters, spanning from November of 1921 to the end of September of 1922, totaled over 55,000 words and provided a detailed account of her life in London during Bywaters' absence at sea. In certain passages, she expressed her desire to be rid of her husband, Percy, even discussing methods such as lacing his food with ground glass and poison. She also mentioned her own abortion after becoming pregnant by Bywaters. Despite counsel's advice against testifying, emphasizing the prosecution's burden of proof, Edith insisted on taking the stand, hoping to exonerate Bywaters. However, her decision backfired. She appeared unaware of the gravity of her situation, leaving a poor impression on the judge and jury, particularly with her repeated contradictions. While she denied attempting to poison her husband, she attributed references in her letters to such attempts as mere attempts to impress her lover. When questioned about the meaning of certain passages, she often replied, "I have no idea." Bywaters maintained that Edith Thompson was unaware of his intentions, as he had never intended to murder her husband. According to him, his goal was to confront Percy and compel him to address their situation. However, when Percy threatened him and adopted a condescending attitude, Bywaters lost his temper. He repeatedly asserted that Edith had not encouraged him to harm Percy, nor did she know of his intentions to confront him. Regarding the letters, Bywaters claimed he never believed Edith had attempted to harm her husband. Instead, he believed her vivid imagination, influenced by the novels she enjoyed, led her to express herself in a dramatic manner. He suggested that in her letters, she saw herself as a character from the fiction she consumed. On December 11th, the jury delivered a guilty verdict for both defendants. Subsequently, Thomas and Bywaters received the death penalty by hanging. Edith Thompson's reaction was one of hysteria, as she began screaming in the courtroom. Meanwhile, Bywaters vehemently protested, loudly asserting Edith Thompson's innocence, declaring, "I insist that the jury's verdict is inaccurate. Edith Thompson is not guilty." Before and during the trial, Thompson and Bywaters were the subjects of intense and critical media scrutiny, characterized by sensationalism. However, following their sentence to death, there was a notable shift in public sentiment and media coverage. Almost 1 million individuals signed a petition opposing the death sentences. Bywaters especially garnered admiration for his unwavering loyalty and protective stance toward Edith Thompson. Nonetheless, Thompson herself was widely perceived as the orchestrator behind the events. The prospect of hanging a woman was deemed repugnant, especially considering that no woman had been executed in Britain since Rhoda Willis in 1907. Despite the public outcry and a renewed confession from Bywaters, in which he reiterated Thompson's complete innocence, Home Secretary William Bridgeman refused to grant a reprieve. Just days before their scheduled executions, Edith Thompson was informed of the set date, prompting her to lose control emotionally. She spent her final days in a state of hysteria, consumed by tears, screams, distress, and unable to eat. On January 9, 1923, in Holloway Prison, 29-year-old Edith Thompson collapsed in terror at the impending execution. The prison governor heavily sedated her, rendering her nearly unconscious as she was carried to the gallows by 4 wardens. Meanwhile, in Pentonville Prison, 20-year-old Frederick Bywaters, who had attempted to spare Thomas from imprisonment and execution since his arrest, faced his own hanging. The execution of Edith Thompson left a profound impact on her hangman, John Ellis. Both executions took place simultaneously at 9 a.m., merely about half a mile apart. Holloway and Pentonville prisons, designated for women and men, respectively, are closely situated in North London.
Thank you all so much for watching.
Following protocol, the bodies of Edith
video,
Thompson and Frederick Bywaters were initially interred within the prison walls where they had been executed.
We upload every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m.
For more content like this, be sure to check out our other videos on the channel.
You can also follow us on our other social media platforms for uploads and updates.
Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.